Hi everybody! Today we're going to talk more about value, lights and darks. And here we have a simple sphere, and this will illustrate how the light is coming from this direction and hitting the form, leaving this side in shadow. So let's think about our value scale too though. We've got white at one end, black at the other end, and all the grays in between. And we're going to be talking about a full range of value today, from white to black. Okay, so we have our main light source coming from this direction. And so the light areas are going to include what's called the halftone, which is going to be in the middle in the value scale, the light, and the highlight. Now the highlight is going to be different depending on the surface. If it's a waxy, shiny apple, it's going to be different than a highlight on top of something made out of cloth, say. Alright, so reflective surface is going to have a harder edge and a brighter highlight, and duller surface quality will have a darker highlight or none at all. Okay, and then on the dark side over here, we call this the form shadow. As the sphere's wrapping around away from the light, it's getting darker and darker and darker. And inside of the form shadow, we can divide that up into the core, or the darkest part of the form shadow, and reflected light right through here. And this is not a form shadow, this is a cast shadow. And with a cast shadow, there's a couple of things to remember to do in your paintings and drawings. The closer the cast shadow is to the object that's casting it, the crisper the edge is going to be. The further away it gets, the fuzzier. The closer to the form that the cast shadow is being cast from, the darker it is. And it gets lighter as it goes away from the form. And it's really important to get that what's called occlusion shadow down there at the bottom of your form where it's touching the surface. This is an example of that. We have two spheres. One has that occlusion shadow inside of the cast shadow, and one does not. And if you don't go dark enough, it looks like your form is floating just slightly above the surface. So always remember to go really dark right where the form is meeting the surface that it's sitting on. And let's talk more about the reflected light. So the reflected light occurs when the light is passing the form and bouncing off something over here and coming back and hitting it. Alright? And the best way I can illustrate that would be to just imagine that we take away the surface that this sphere is on, and the sphere is floating in space. And let's pretend that this light source is the sun and this is Earth. Alright? So is the cast shadow still going to be there? It is. And I have a little illustration to show that. Alright. So here's our sun. Here's our light coming this direction. It's hitting the Earth over here. There's daytime. There's nighttime. And you can see right here there's a cone form. There's the apex, the very end of it. So the shape of night, or the form of night, is a cone. So if we were in a little spaceship right here, the light would be hitting us, and if we flew right into here, we would be inside of the cast shadow of the Earth. We could come out the other side and we would be in light again. But you can see the reflected light in here. That's from the light striking the moon and bouncing off and coming back and making that a little bit lighter. That's why when we have a full moon, you go outside on a clear night without clouds, and it's rather light outside. So if the moon wasn't there, it was on some other area away from the Earth, that's when we have a pretty dark nighttime, because we don't have that light bouncing off the moon and coming back and hitting the Earth. So the moon is not a light source. it is just there and the light is bouncing off of it and coming and striking the earth again. So just something to keep in mind to illustrate the reflected light, which is very important. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and do a painting next. It's going to be an acrylic painting, and we're going to do a painting of an apple actually, and we're going to do it in such a way where it illustrates what we just talked about. Alright, let's get started. I have a canvas board, and I've gone ahead and painted it middle value gray, and we refer to this as the ground. It used to be a white ground, and now it's a gray ground. So we're going to start in the middle of our value scale and work out lighter and darker from the center. So go ahead and do that if you're working with me at home, and then we're going to start sketching our apple in, and we're just going to sketch it in with our brush, not a pencil. And I'm going to mix up a value that's just a little darker than the value of the canvas. That's pretty good. All right. Now I want to place the apple in here in such a way where I can see my entire cast shadow. It's not very interesting when you place an object right in the middle. So I'm going to shift it over to the right just a little bit. All right. So there's our apple. I'm going to put a tabletop in. There we go. We're going to have our light coming from this direction. Therefore, my cast shadow is going to be going this way. And your cast shadow is always dictated by the direction the light is coming from. You can see my light is coming from about this direction. It's rather low. If the light was coming from up above, of course the cast shadow would just be underneath it. If the light was coming from this direction, the cast shadow would go this direction. Alright, there we go. And I am going to go ahead and use a slightly bigger brush, and with that same value, I'm going to mix up a little more of it. So that's probably about a 70% gray. I'm going to go ahead and put in my background. Now the light is coming from over here. So I am going to go ahead and let my background go a little bit darker on the left side, where it's further away from the light source. I'm going to take a little bit more black and mix to this. And I didn't mix it into my whole puddle because I wanted to see the difference between the two values. So now I'm bringing it over here on this side, and where the two come together, I crisscross my strokes and blend them together. That's called a transition or change. It's a slow change. This is a fast change or transition. And this is not going to be a hyper-realistic apple. It's just a little study. Get in the rest of your background. There we go. And go back to that light. There we are. Good. Alright, I think I'm going to go ahead and use a smaller brush, a little bit smaller. Some more of that 70% gray, and I'm going to go ahead and block in my cast shadow. Crisper near the apple, the edge, and a little fuzzier further away it gets. Nice. Okay. Alright, now we need to put in the form shadow of the apple. There we go, and where the form meets the cast shadow, the form shadow meets the cast shadow, that's going to be where we're going to put that occlusion part of the cast shadow in, real dark. Alright, so we've gone dark. Now let's go the other direction and go a little bit lighter. side of our apple. Let that transition out. Now I'm going to value in between these two. So I've got my two colors I was using, my values, and I'm going to mix them together to get something about in the middle. A little darker. And I go back to my form shadow value. There we go. Got a nice little transition there. All right. And the tabletop. Let's go ahead and address that. If the background is lighter here and a little darker here because of the light source being closer to this, the same should be true of the tabletop. I mix up a value that's just a little lighter. That's good. I'm going to go a little lighter over in this corner. I am going to let it get darker as it proceeds to the back of the table. Just a little bit. There we go. Right up next to the cast shadow. Good. Nice and subtle. Alright, let's go over here to our reflected light. We're going to go a little bit darker than that 50% that the ground was. Just a little bit. Place that in and then transition that into our form shadow core, like that. Alright. And then we're going to go ahead and go down here over to our cast shadow, and again with about a little bit lighter than the cast shadow value that we used. We're going to go lighter out here at the end of our cast shadow. It's going to get lighter the further away it gets from the apple. See there? And then we can get that occlusion shadow. I'm going to go almost pure black. Right underneath there. I want to transition that out into the rest of the shadow. Grab a lighter value to do that. There we go. Correct that shape a little bit. And I think I want that core to be just a little bit darker. There it is. Good. All right. Now we've got the light coming from this direction, which means this little opening that the stem comes out of. I'm going to be picking up a little bit of light there. And I need to grab a different brush for that stem. I'll be right back. Alright, I have a number 6 liner brush. It's a really nice little detail brush. So we're going to get that stem in. And the stem is going to be darker on the left side because the light is coming from the left. And it's going to be lighter on the left side. A little too light. And I'll find a value that's in the middle between those two. Sandwich that in between the light and the dark. Now, the stem is like a tree. If you had light shining on a tree, it's going to cast a shadow on the ground. Well, this is going to cast a shadow, but this hole that it's coming out of is kind of like a scoop, and it's going to follow that form. So I need a value that's a little darker than the apple right here. This is going to come up and over. See the cast shadow? Alright, now we need to put in a slightly lighter value on this side of the apple. Build up our lights a little bit. There we go. I messed up my shadow, didn't I? And that cast shadow will be a little darker nearer the stem. That. Alright, the last part we need to put in is our highlight. An apple has a reflective surface. We're not going to go pure white, almost. And place it about right there. Soften those edges just a little bit. There we go. Alright, real quick study of an apple. We used a full range of value, and we went over some terms that are really important. Light source, halftone, or middle value, our core part of the form shadow, our reflected light, cast shadow, highlight, and light. Alright, well I hope you enjoyed this video, and I think we're going to go ahead and get into color next. So have fun with this one at home, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.